Hello and welcome to this Filbert Flies review of ORBX's Malmo scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator by Markus Newberg. You join me here on final approach to runway 17 at Malmo, and as always I'm starting with an approach to give you a look at the surrounding area and also to give you the chance to gauge the performance of this scenery on my system, which is comprised of an i7-8700K processor with 32GB of RAM and a 1080 Ti graphics card. I'll let you finish watching the approach and landing in peace, and I will speak to you again at a gate where we'll have a good look around this scenery in different weather and lighting conditions. Welcome to Malmo. We're parked up here at Gate 4. Let's take a look around. Now, the jetways in this scenery are not animated, they're not functional. And I believe the reason for this is that this two-axis type of jetway is not yet supported by the SDK. I'm sure it will be updated as and when this functionality becomes available. However, in spite of the lack of animation, the jetways look absolutely fantastic. The modelling and texturing is absolutely first class, with super high resolution textures and so many little details included that really bring this airport to life. Have a look at the chips of paint missing off this sign here, for example. It's just absolutely incredible what Markus does with these textures. We have transparent glass which is slightly tinted on this part of the jetway, and if we go inside, unfortunately the glass disappears. Not the end of the world. You'll also notice that on the sides of the jetway, although we have PBR materials used, so the windows are reflective, we actually have a static texture instead of see-through glass. Now that is a little bit of a shame, in my opinion. Moving over to the main terminal, you will notice that this too is beautifully modelled and textured. We've also got a modelled interior and some slightly steamy windows, which is an effect that I haven't seen before, but it looks absolutely fantastic. Let's take a look inside quickly. So we have a flat 2D background image, which is fairly low resolution, some flooring which is even lower resolution, and the same with the ceiling. However, we have some very good signage, and of course we have benches which look really good. They're nicely modelled and nicely textured. So this isn't the sort of terminal that is designed to be viewed from the inside, I think it's fair to say. But I'm not that fussed about fully modelled terminal interiors. I just want it to look good when I pull up at the gate, and this certainly does. So these roofing textures are not quite as good as the rest of the airport, but you're not going to get up close to them unless you're doing a review like I am. The modelling on the roof is very good. We've got a nice amount of detail which you may spot on final approach, so it's nice to see some time has been put into that. The main part of the terminal building makes use of a mixture of flat PBR textures, as in these windows here, and transparent glass, as in these windows here. Now, that's an interesting choice in my opinion, because this is not a part of the airport you're going to see very often from the planes, whereas the part we just looked at is. Nonetheless, if we go inside, you'll see we have a modelled check-in area, which is really nicely done. And again, those of you who like having a quick nose around the inside of an airport when you arrive will probably be fairly happy with this. Out the front of the airport in the landside area, you'll notice we've got a few features modelled, including these static cars, lampposts, advertising hoardings, shelters and so forth. And the front of the buildings looks really very nice indeed, including the lighting on this Wizz Air advert over here. The ground textures, however, are, as you can see, the default photo image. And again, for those of you who care about terminal exteriors, you might find this a little bit disappointing. I'm sort of the opinion that if you're going to take the time to carefully model and texture the front of the building, you may as well spend a little bit of time on the ground as well. But it's personal taste. There's probably a significant portion of people watching this who think, well, I'm not interested in the front anyway, I'm here to fly planes. So there you are, just my view. The control tower is very nicely modelled, although if you get in super close you'll notice that the textures aren't quite up to the standard of those on the main terminal buildings. And I think that's fair enough, because who's going to come this close to a control tower? It'll certainly look very, very nice when you are arriving in your aircraft. The cargo apron is very nicely modelled, with a good amount of appropriate clutter scattered about. We even have a person down here. And the terminal building itself has textures that are just as high resolution as those we saw on the passenger terminal. You will have noticed by now that this airport does make use of static aircraft. We have a few jets around and about the place, which everyone has their opinion on. Personally, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I would quite like the option to turn them on or off and select the number that are visible. The ground textures at this airport are every bit as good as those on the terminal. Nice and sharp, appropriate materials used throughout, the right colours, and the ground markings are done just to my liking. Slightly faded, a few nicks out of the edges. It looks very, very lifelike indeed. The taxiway centerline lights are well modelled, with a good amount of detail. And the textures on the taxiways are fantastic as well. They really are some of the best I've seen. The taxiway signage is beautifully modelled, with super crisp textures that are easy to read from the taxiways. If you do get very, very close, you'll notice that some of these signs are in fact floating above the ground, but who is ever going to get this close? The grassy areas are very nicely done, with good use of 3D flora. Although they do exhibit a strange behaviour that I haven't noticed anywhere else, in that as you get further away, they actually look a bit blurrier. I don't know what that's about. It's not a huge deal, but it's something you might notice on approach. The runway textures are truly first class. They're nice and crisp. There's a good amount of rubber on either side of the centerline, and we've got an increase in the amount of rubber around the touchdown zone. Having compared this with the satellite imagery from Google, I can confirm this is really very close to the real thing. The night lighting here is absolutely astounding. We've got these floodlights up here creating a very realistic glow over the apron, and the lit up terminal interior looks fantastic as well. There's a little bit of a colour mismatch between these flat textures and the light that's emanating from the main part of the terminal, but it's not the end of the world. The one thing I would like to have seen improved is for there to be some light within the transparent parts of the jetways. They do look a little bit odd, but nonetheless this is an incredibly realistic night environment. It's among the best I've seen to date. The runway and the taxiways are all very well lit, as are the taxiway signs, which means you shouldn't have any trouble finding your way around this airport after dark. Here's Malmo in the rain. It looks absolutely beautiful. The textures support the inbuilt reflections and puddles very, very nicely. We do have the usual issue of the transparent glass popping and not being shrouded in poor visibility, which is particularly apparent on the jetways, but not so apparent on the main terminal. And I think that is because of that rather nice steamy effect that we saw on the windows, so they're not as transparent as the jetway ones. Here's Malmo in the snow. You'll notice that the tyre marks on the centre of the runway are more or less free of snow, whereas the rest of the runway is carpeted. And we have different levels of snow around the rest of the airport. We have the usual Microsoft Flight Simulator issue of certain surfaces not supporting any snow at all, which looks odd, and we do have quite harsh transitions between the snow and the clear areas, but there's not a lot the developer could have done about that. If we get down nice and close on the apron, you'll see that actually it looks pretty convincing, and that is down to the effort that's been taken to partially cover the taxiway and stand centre lines and other markings with snow. So unlike other add-ons, they don't stick out like a sore thumb. So what do I think? I absolutely love this add-on. I found a few things to moan about, the lack of lighting within the jetways and the blurry landside ground textures, and I would have liked to have seen transparent glass through the whole of the jetways for consistency, but these are very, very minor points. The atmosphere and the realism of this airport are truly exceptional. The modelling and texturing are among the best you'll find anywhere, and the airport looks fantastic day and night and in all weather conditions. Just as he did with Gothenburg, Marcus has blown me away with this scenery. I have no hesitation at all in recommending it. Thank you very much indeed for watching this review. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please click the thumbs up button down below, subscribe, and if you'd like to, you can really help me out by supporting my channel with a donation. You can either use the Streamlabs donation link on the top left here, or you can visit buymeacoffee.com/philbertflies. I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.